occupied territory on the far left coast. You're listening to On the Move with Mack Worley III.
Hello, Mack Pack. It is amazing to be back with you. I am Mack Worley, and this is On the Move, the show that attempts to inspire you to stand up for your rights. I'm so excited about today's show. I have to tell you, today is a good day. It's just a good day. I'm really happy. It's November 16th, 2014, and today's show is titled Midterm Election Insights. I'm really profoundly excited about today. I just have to say that, there was a big win here for our team, roughly. I mean, it's not exactly the people we'd want in office. It's not the best of the best, the cream of the crop, but it is better than who we have. And that's to say, it's better than the people that were full steam driving us off the cliff. And now we've got a lot of people who are just, driving the speed limit off the cliff. So, but anyway, it's better than it was. So we have to take this moment, we have to revel in the small victories. That's where it's at, reveling in the small victories. So let's just take a moment and bask in it for a second and just, it's been a tough 6 years. I mean, a really tough 6 years. I'm sure you all know. I mean, you've been with me right along here the whole way. It's been a tough 6 years for us. Those of us who love liberty, those of us who cherish our individual rights, it's been tough. It's been really difficult. It's been hard. It's a hard pill to swallow. And it was definitely hard for us to swallow a second term with Barack Obama. I'm telling you, I was surprised. I was definitely surprised. I know that a lot of you were as well, and, I was just dumbfounded. I couldn't believe it. Anyway, let's talk about what we're doing today, what is going on today's show. We got a bunch of different stuff on the menu for your listening pleasure. First, we're going to be joined by a special guest, and it's somebody who's been on the show before. I look up to this guy. He's doing great things. His name is Mark Goodwin. He's the host of Prepper Recon. It's a talk show similar to what we do here. He's more prepper-oriented, but he talks a whole lot about politics and other stuff. I highly recommend you check his stuff out. I believe it's prepperrecon.com. I'll double-check on that and get clarification with him in a moment here when he joins us. But he's also an author, so I'm really looking forward to talking to him. I want to talk about his book. I want to talk about some other things he's got going on. He's got a lot of stuff going on. And lastly, I really want to get his insights on what we see today. We'll go through the news cycle with him a little bit and kind of break down and get his thoughts. It's great to have another side of the coin here. So anyway, with that said, he's going to be joining us around 5:15 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. That's my time. And 8:15 Pacific Standard Time for all you East Coast people out there. That's Eastern Standard Time. And anyway, so later on in the show, there's a bunch of different topics that I would like to bring up here. We got the Mack Attack segment of the show, and that's usually where I bring this stuff up. So in this segment, first and foremost, I'm going to break down and analyze what happened exactly during these midterm elections, what it means for us now, and then I want to go ahead and move into Obama's plan to give amnesty to millions of illegal immigrants. And yes, I use the term illegal immigrants because they are here illegally, and they're immigrants. And contrary to what the leftists may believe, we as, conservatives or libertarians, I myself am a blend of both, conservative and libertarian. I'm a conservative libertarian, and I'm not anti-immigration, not even in the least. I have no problem with immigration. You come here, you go through the process, you come here legally, lawfully, you go through everything that is required. Okay, more power to you. Especially, I think that we should try to be a little bit selective in the process, obviously. I mean, we're letting people into our country. We want people who are going to come in who are going to be a benefit, right? They're going to create jobs, not take up jobs, unlike these millions of people who the vast majority have no real skill, maybe they're skilled labor or maybe just labor, but they're not anybody who's going to create jobs for the most part. And I know I'm generalizing. I know this, all right? So, but the vast majority of these people are unskilled laborers. It's fact, all right? So if you disagree with, what are you going to disagree with, science? No, look, the point is that, there is a terminology out there, and this is what the left will tell you. They call it the labor lump fallacy, and the economists will say that there are not a finite amount of jobs in the economy. All right, that this is what they will have you believe, that there are not a finite amount of jobs in the economy. So the more people that are pumped into the economy, the more jobs that will be created. That's called the lump of labor fallacy. This is what they're saying. They're saying it's a fallacy that, the more people, the less jobs. Okay, it's not a fallacy if those people that you're flooding into the system have no marketable skills in which will create more jobs. That's not a fallacy. If more unskilled laborers are in the market, that means that there are less jobs for unskilled laborers. If more engineers are in the market, that means that there's less jobs for engineers. If more entrepreneurs are in the market, however, there is the difference, because now more jobs are being created. Businesses are being created. People have to work for these businesses. Somebody has to work for these businesses. So then people that can benefit that company or business or whatever, those people will have more jobs. I know this is the beginning of the show. Usually I don't really go into stuff like this early. Usually I just kind of hang out with you guys and relax with the Mack Pack. But, this stuff really bothers me. The nonsensical arguments, the illogical reasoning behind most of the left's arguments are really easily refuted. You can argue emotional argument for emotional argument, that's what the left starts with, or you can just go with the facts. I mean, the fact is there are a finite amount of jobs unless job makers are inserted into the market. That is a fact. So, anyway, I want to talk some more about some other things today as well. We're going to deep dive into the American prison system if we have time today. I really would like to talk about this and the cycle that I feel that it creates. So I'm going to take some time. I'm going to break down my thoughts on this. And I want to talk about how we treat our prisoners after they get out of prison and what we're doing to our felons right now, our ex-felons. All right, and I want to talk about the term paid their debt to society. I want to really bring that up a little bit. But I also have some articles that I want to use to illustrate my point on this topic. So hopefully we'll have time to get to that today. Anyway, the most important part of today's show is you guys. This is the key. You are the key. So I want to hear from you guys today, Mack Pack. Give us a call. Join the conversation. You can do that by calling 619-924-0986. Again, that's 619-924-0986. Or you can email the show at talk@onthemoveshow.com. If you have another topic that you'd like to discuss, anything is on the table. Our Mack Pack phone lines are open, so light them up, guys. Again, the number to the show is 619-924-0986. All right, we're about to cut to a quick commercial break, but before we do, might I ask that you guys please just check out our website, onthemoveshow.com. You can follow us here at blogtalkradio.com/onthemoveshow. You can like us on Facebook, facebook.com/onthemoveshow. You can subscribe to us on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/onthemoveshow. And follow us on Twitter, twitter.com/onthemoveshow. Anyway, we will be right back. And when we get back, I'm not sure, but I believe that this may be Mark Goodwin calling in. So we may be on the line with him when we come back. So anyway, don't go anywhere. We will be back.
Support On The Move. Help us make this podcast bigger and better. You can do this by going to our store and purchasing one of our hundreds of products. All designs are original and made for patriots like you. Just go to cafepress.com/onthemoveshow. We appreciate your support. Hi, I'm Latasha Worley, and I work with candidates to creatively and effectively communicate their message to voters. I offer professional graphic design services from yard signs to flyers, from logos to vehicle magnets. Email me today at latashaworley@gmail.com. That's LATOSHA Worley@gmail.com for a quote on items for your campaign.
Broadcasting from deep within occupied territory on the far left coast. You're listening to On the Move with Mack Worley III. Stand up, speak out, and get on the move. And now your host, Mack Worley III.
We're back. God, I love you guys. I asked for you to call in, and you call in. I love it. Hey, we got John on the line. John would like to talk about immigration and the prison system. I got you on the line, John. What's on your mind?
Good evening, Mac. I'm a U.S. Navy vet, 6 years. I've been around the world, been there, done that. I'm also a first-generation American. My mother was a Korean, and she came over. I have 2 brothers and 2 sisters, and I remember as a kid watching her work and go to college full-time while studying to become an American citizen. She's got her citizenship. She's since retired now. My whole issue with this whole illegal immigration thing is I make a pretty good living as a field service technician. But the flip side of that is, since I'm a single man with no dependents I can claim on my taxes, I get hit at 38% withholding. And while I understand the government needs taxes to function, to keep the roads going and everything like that, my issue is with these government entities that are giving my tax dollars, your tax dollars, and everybody else's tax dollars to these people that jump the fence, basically. Now, I don't mind sharing the wealth when there's wealth to be shared, but if you just look at our back door, our backyard, there's millions of Americans, and I'm not even going to target the homeless vets. I'm going to say all homeless Americans. We are giving away food stamps, medical care to these people like when they were flooding the border a few months ago. We're spending millions, probably even maybe into billions, taking care of these people. I would rather take care of the people that were here, that were born here, that either earned their way into this country or that were born here and became a citizen.
Yes, sir.
And
go ahead.
I don't like when you get hit with 38% of tax withholding, it makes you almost not want to work, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And you just get frustrated from that. You see all this money going out. And plus, we also send money to buy allies, which is another subject for another day we can talk about. But that's my thought on that.
All right. Well, hey, John. First of all, I just want to say thank you for your service. I really do appreciate that. But let me touch on something that you discussed here. You know, because I agree with a lot of what you're saying in sentiment. However, what I will say is I don't want to give these people an inch, because if you give them an inch, you will essentially have to fight them on the mile that they're trying to take. So, you know, when you say, you know, I don't mind sharing the wealth, you are in turn saying that, you know, I don't mind socialism, and you may not be saying that, but that's what they hear. You know,
I want to take care of our own. It's like you take care of your family first, and then you take care of others. Absolutely. That's my point of view.
And I totally agree with you that we have a lot of stuff here that we really need to focus on. We've got homeless people. We've got job problems in America. We've got a struggling economy. We don't need to be looking out for everyone else. We need to look out for ourselves. I agree with you on that sentiment. However, what I will say is that I am not for sharing the wealth. This is me. I'm personally, I am 100% against sharing the wealth. Because what the Democrats interpret as sharing the wealth is some tax collector pounding on your door, kicking it in, and taking your money. That's not sharing. That's called stealing. That's the way they look at it.
Sharing the wealth, like you voluntarily do it.
Like, and that's called charity.
Walmart or whatever, and there's a Salvation Army kettle guy out there, and you throw a few dollars in there. That's what I consider sharing the wealth.
Exactly. But what the left considers sharing the wealth is having their hand deep in your pocket. That's what they consider sharing the wealth. And that's not what you're talking about. I know that's not what you're talking about, but I'm just making a point that the left is very deceptive in the way they use. They say, we're gonna share the wealth. We're gonna make sure that these rich billionaires are paying their fair share, and everybody's paying what they have to pay, and everybody gets what they deserve. But that's not what they really mean. Is that they're gonna tax the crap out of the working class, make it so it's not even worth it to work. So you basically quit, you give up, you get on the government's teeth. They got your vote because they have full control over you. I understand where you're getting at. We got problems, but I'm for charity. I'm not for sharing the wealth because that term has been coerced and taken over by the left. And I do understand where you're coming from on it. We need to look out for our own. We've got a lot of homeless people here in America, and I think that not necessarily through taxes we should be doing that. But, charities and goodwill, those kind of things. American people, there is a lot of giving spirit in America, unlike anywhere else in the world. And it's because we've always had a smaller government. And in comparison to other countries have always looked for their government to do stuff. We have always looked in ourselves to do things for others because we don't rely on the government historically like other countries have. And it's because our government has always been smaller. Our government has always been the absolute last resort. That's the way it was intended to be, and that's historically what it has been. But things are changing. Obama's fundamentally transforming America. Anyway, John, do you have any other final thoughts?
I want to make, this is just a quick comment on the prison system. Today in America, we have locked up more people in our prison systems than Stalin did at the height of his regime when he was running the Soviet Union.
Yeah,
so think about that.
There's more prisoners in America than anywhere else in the world, and we don't even have the world's largest population. We've got more prisoners in our prisons right now than China does. And China has last I heard, a billion or so people, something like that. We've got 319 or 20 million Americans, something like that. And we've got the most prisoners in the world. We're supposed to be the land of the free. Apparently not, I guess. Hey, John, I really do appreciate you giving us a call. I'm going to go ahead and move on here. We got another caller. I see Mark Goodwin is in the queue right now. I'm going to take another caller real fast before I have him on. And here we go. We got E for Eternity on the show. Hey, E, are you there?
Yes, Mac, I am here with you. I'm glad we got on chat today and talked before I came on the show. I have a couple things I want to say, but first I want to touch up on that last one you talked about with the last caller about liberalism corrupting charity with actual dipping in your pockets and taking your tax money. It's like this, if I told a liberal I was a Christian, they'd try to introduce me to evolution. But if I told them I believed in the Darwinian theory of survival of the fittest, they'd try to tell me I need to be more Christ-centered with my giving. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah, you can't.
That's the hypocrisy with liberals.
Yeah, and their arguments for the most part are really all of them are just based on emotion. So, if you can argue, and I've done it before. I've tried to learn the best way to argue a point with a liberal. For the most part, though, you'll come across different groups of people, and some of those people are going to be the hardcore, no matter what you say, fanatics. They will never listen to you. And for those people, the only thing you can do is give them, an acceptance of a difference of opinion and really just show them love.
You're on the West Coast, right?
Yes, sir.
You're on the West Coast. Good, because this is something I want to raise an issue to on the West Coast, because I don't know what goods and services you have on the West Coast as far as liberalism goes. Here on the East Coast, we have Orange County out here in New York as well. You have Orange County, California. We have Orange County, New York. We also have Sullivan County, New York, where the old Woodstock Festival was back in 1969. Well, between Orange County and Sullivan County, we have this agency that's like an adult CPS called Mobile Mental Health. And just like they can do with kids, if you're a mental health person and you're an adult, they can just snatch you out of your home with the help of police, no Miranda rights, no right to have a lawyer present while you're being questioned. They just assess you, and the cops just take you out in handcuffs, and no rights at all. They just assess you, they decide, and the cops take you out, and the cops don't even question you. The cops stand behind the cops. It's sort of like the old Babylonian princess thing, where the eunuchs stand behind the princesses, and the princesses call the shots, and the guards take you away and kill you. But only the cops don't kill you, though. They just put you in handcuffs and slap you behind the police car. But it's just like that, It's like you have two women that are not doctors, that are not therapists, but they're so greatly certified and qualified to assess you however they want to, or granted, however they feel to, and they decide that whether or not you need a hospital or not, and you have no right to object because you have no right to a lawyer, and they won't call a lawyer out to you to represent you if you need one, because they'll say that you're just too mentally unstable, because that's their word against yours, just like a police officer. And a cop will put you in handcuffs, put you in a car, and right to the hospital you go.
Yeah.
Can you imagine that in America today?
It happened in the past. I mean, people were forcefully committed, and honestly, the left has done its part in decommissioning our mental health institutions nowadays. I don't necessarily agree with being committed against your will, especially if you have no reason to be committed. But I think the world would be a little safer.
But it's their word against yours, and that's the screwed up part. Yeah. And when you don't have no rights, how do you get out of that? It's like we need a revolution in this country, man, and that's really what it's about.
Well, I'm actually going to get to that in a little bit, E. Thanks for giving us a call, man. E for Eternity, guys. Check him out on YouTube. We got to cut to Mark Goodwin. He's been patient, and he's hanging on hold for us right now. I got you on the line, Mark. Thank you so much for holding. I'm sorry about the wait. First of all, how are you?
Mack, it's good to be here, man. I'm doing great.
Oh, good. Well, it's my absolute pleasure to have you on the show again. You've graced us with your presence now. This is the second time. And first of all, can you give my listeners just a heads up of who you are, what you do on your show, and your website information, all that good stuff?
Sure. We talk about a lot of the same stuff that you talk about as far as, needing to get back to liberty and get back to our founding principles and things like that. But we also look at the need to be prepared because, things could turn out really, really nasty. So we get a lot of guests that come on. Of course, you're going to be on the show in a couple of weeks, and we'll be talking about liberty-related issues. And then we also get people that come on that talk about preparedness-related issues, everything from food storage, solar, backup food supplies, keeping clean water, shelter, all the things that you need to survive should we have some type of either an economic collapse just from the buffoonery, which was sort of the subject line in my first trilogy, is that they just couldn't get things together and everything fell apart economically, or if it's something that's actually engineered. And I think, unfortunately, that the people on our level, it's hard to really know, but there's certainly a lot of things that sort of point to that it could be an engineered collapse that we're heading into, and it's just something that the sort of the New World Order is trying to do to kind of clear out the old system so they can bring in their own new system that will have this sort of hyper control that E was just talking about. He's right. We do need a revolution. It is really bad. We're so far beyond anything anybody could have imagined as far as like 1984 or any type of Orwellian society that they could have even imagined back then, or what John was talking about. The Russian gulags or the Nazi concentration camps. We've seen all of that with this, and everybody's still sort of wandering around with their head in the clouds and their pink glasses on, thinking that we're living in the freest nation on earth. And and while it may still be the best place on earth to be, it's not good, and we need to take it back. And a lot of folks they get caught up on that it's the best place to be. Well, if you don't like it, go somewhere else. That's not really a good thing to say. That's like saying, for a woman, if there's two women and the one woman she's married to this drunk that beats her, and the other woman well, at least he doesn't. At least my husband doesn't beat me, and he's not a drunkard. He just goes out and sleeps around a little bit, so he's not as bad as all the other husbands. So he's a good husband. That's not the quality of a good husband. He might be the best one out of the bunch, but that's still not good. And we can't accept that for our nation.
Well, Mark, I think that what you're talking about, one thing that I'm a big advocate for is state sovereignty. And the topic of a centralized federal leviathan, which is what we see now, I mean, it's created so much central power, so much ability to control everything that goes on within the borders of the United States. This is why I'm such a big fan of state sovereignty, and I would really like to see a reawakening of state sovereignty. The abolition of the 17th Amendment that made it so that the states, the senators for the states were elected by the people, giving dual ability to elect in the Congress. It was originally meant to be elected by the state legislators, but I think what you're talking about is, if you don't like it, you can leave. This is something that would actually be useful if the states genuinely still obtained their sovereignty, still had sovereignty, because if you didn't like how it was in Florida, you could go to Georgia, or you can go to Washington, or you can go to Ohio. But the problem is that the federal leviathan is everywhere. It's everywhere now, and there's no escaping it now. The only way to really escape the federal leviathan is to really reawaken state sovereignty, to take it back, let states govern themselves, and limit the scope of what the federal leviathan can do. That's the only way, I think. And, I wanted to get into this a little bit later, and I'm definitely going to, but so what do you call for when you're saying that we need a revolution? Because this is a conversation that I wanted to have today.
Well, I think the first thing we need is an intellectual revolution, and I think that we need to wake up our friends and our neighbors and the people that are voting these idiots from these two different parties into office, because they're both bankrupting us, and neither one of them are oriented to liberty. None of them have in mind what you're talking about, to get back to what our founders had in mind, to state sovereignty, to where each of the 50 states is its own little sort of independent experiment in freedom, where if you don't like what's going on in Tennessee, you can pack it up and move out to Montana, and vice versa. If you think that the government has no role in education, maybe that's how it is in Tennessee, and there's no state run education, because of course at that point there's very small federal government, and maybe Montana has a state run education system, and you prefer one over the other, then you can do that. And let's say California wants pot to be legal, and Texas wants it to be illegal. Then you can choose there as well. While I'm not so particularly happy that it's pot that's the issue, because I think it's probably one of the lesser evils, but I'm happy to see states standing up and asserting their sovereignty, even if it's for marijuana. I'm happy to see that that's what they're doing.
So in that whole process of going where you think is best for you, the place that fits you, that's called voting with your feet. We've heard that all the time. You vote with your feet. Well, you move to where you find the best place for you. And that's why places like Texas, and places like Florida, these places are starting to flourish, because people are voting with their feet, because they realize that the government is a lot different than the government in, let's say, New York, for example. People are leaving in droves. But the problem is that these same liberals that voted the people in office are coming down to places like Florida, coming to places like Texas, going up to places like Montana and North Dakota, and they're voting the same way. I hope they leave their voting habits behind when they go, because they've ruined that place. So let's not ruin the new place that you're going to.
Yeah, and I think what John was talking about earlier with the executive amnesty for illegal Democrats, I think that's gonna be a huge power shift if they all get into Texas and are granted the ability to vote, because having coming in and not being able to speak the language, they are going to be dependent on entitlement programs. And, of course, they're going to probably most likely the majority of them vote like most of the entitlement enslaved folks that vote now. So I think that's going to probably turn that state blue. And I think it'll be very, very difficult in the overall power struggle for a Republican or a conservative to get into office. Oh, I'm no cheerleader for either party. I'd really hate to see that huge influx of folks that are going to be dependent on an entitlement system.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they're not fooling anyone. We know what they're doing. They don't care about these illegal immigrants. They don't care about them at all. They just want their vote. They're buying their vote. That's all this is. And if they succeed, if they manage to turn Texas blue, it's over. I mean, we at that point, we are in an oligarchy. We're in a one-party system. There's no way out. There's not going to be a Republican Party, period. The Republican Party will be over, done, dead. That's it. There will be no more, because at that point, Texas is the linchpin. Texas is really the linchpin. If you just wave your magic wand of amnesty, and millions, 4.5 million illegals in this country right now are suddenly able to vote, we're in a whole lot of trouble. Anyway, Mark, I want to talk a little bit about this new book that you got going, as well as your trilogy that you had out. Can you tell our listeners a little bit about it and kind of what to expect from some of the material in there?
Sure. Like I said, the first trilogy was sort of this assuming the best out of the government, that they're just a bunch of buffoons and nobody really knows what's going on, and they can't get there's no political will to stop the welfare spending and the warfare spending that's bankrupted us, and there's no political will to quit the quantitative easing, and they basically blow up the dollar. And in the new book, you get a lot of the same type of things that are happening, but it's a conspiracy that's actually driving to bankrupt the country and bring us to our knees, to where we have to have the UN step in and restore order, and everybody voluntarily gives up their rights. And while all of this is going on, the main character's name is Noah Parker, and he's a public school teacher, and I know that E would like this one. The last call it was just on, because Noah dares to mention creationism in his class, because we know that you're not supposed to favor one religion over the other, and he sees evolution as this type of religion, because people that believe in evolution, they're very, very dogmatic about it. And so by having that in our classrooms, they're promoting the religion of atheism and the religion of Darwinianism, because these people are every bit or more so dogmatic than Christians that believe in creationism. And so when he mentions creationism, it's a violation of the new community core standards, and which is now instituted with the criminal codes. It's sort of a Common Core on crack, the new community core standards that are in the book. And now, since that's a crime against children, because he's now mentioned the word creationism to children and violated those criminal codes, DCS steps in and abducts his child, which we see that all the time, whether it's Justina Peltier up in Massachusetts, or the girl that was taken out of her mother's arms at gunpoint because she wanted to get a second opinion in California from the doctor. We're seeing this type of thing all the time. So this all the stuff is sort of falls on Noah's head all at once. And of course, he's got his loyal farm dog that's in the house that's barking when they come to abduct the child. And of course, we all know that now it's the protocol to just shoot the dog anytime an officer feels threatened in the least. They just don't even question it. They don't try to tranquilize it. They don't ask the owner to put the dog in the bathroom or do anything at all. They just, off the top of the back, they just shoot the dog right away. And if you Google dog shot by police on YouTube, if you search it on YouTube, you'll get millions of views, millions of videos to watch. And so all of this kind of stuff is sort of collapsing on Noah, and he has to fight to regain custody of his daughter and fight the criminal charges for mentioning creationism in a public classroom, and all the while the economy is being collapsed. And then you've got another side story that's running alongside of this, and it's a CIA analyst, and he's been taken under the wing from an older field agent that's dying of cancer. And he's sort of this catharsis that he's got to do is to bring this kid in and explain to him what the shadow government's doing through Trilateral Commission, Skull and Bones, CFR, Bilderberg Group, and the CIA to engineer the financial collapse. So he sort of starts to unveil how this conspiracy is going to roll out. And it's a very, very interesting book. And anybody that's into conspiracies or into liberty or, thinking about what they need to do to start prepping for a financial collapse would really, really enjoy this book. And it's called The Days of Noah, and it's book one, and that's it's called Conspiracies, book one. And that's available on Amazon. You can get it in paperback. You can get it the Kindle version, and then the audio was also just released because I'm kind of a podcast junkie myself. I think that's why I started a podcast, and I'm always so busy, and when I'm going to the gym or doing yard work or working in the garden, I can throw a podcast on or an audio book and listen to that while I'm sort of doing that mundane work, and I can actually have my brain engaged while I'm doing something that's not really taking a lot of effort. So
yeah, I do the same thing. I'm a bit of a podcast junkie myself. I haven't quite got it to the point where I can listen to podcasts while I'm doing something else. I have to really focus and pay attention on. But if I'm driving or something, or if I used to commute quite a bit, so I'd have podcasts on all the time. My phone is littered with podcasts, so I'm the same way. I do the same. And with your audiobook, I listened to I think it was book one and book two of your last trilogy. And by the way, I fell in love with that book. It was amazing.
Oh, thanks so much. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was great. It was really just an excellent read. I'm really looking forward to getting to the third one. I haven't gotten there yet, but yeah, I remember I just devoured that. So it was really good. I believe if I'm remembering, the first one was Crisis and the other one was Collapse, if I'm remembering correctly.
The first one was economic. The first one was the Economic Collapse Chronicles was the name of the series, and the first one was American Exit Strategy, and then it was American Meltdown was book two, and then the final chapter in that trilogy was American Reset.
There we go. Yeah,
and in Reset you get this. I'll just give you a little primer for what you're going to get in that one because I'll make sure you get that. And it's we get the balkanization of America, and by default in that book we get what you're talking about, where we get the state sovereignty reinstituted because the federal government just basically goes away because there's no money to fund it. There's no dollar around anymore, and so without the central bank being able to print dollars ad nauseum, then there's no way to fund it because at some point when you get more people in the wagon than you have people pulling the wagon, the people pulling the wagon just give up. They just let go, and they just say, and they walk away. And so that's what happens in American Exit Strategy is you basically get this sort of a Ron Paul type politician coming out and saying, you know what, we don't have to do this. Everybody, you just walk away. There's no point. You're working for nothing because, as John pointed out, I think he said 30%, but that's not even close to touching it because 30% is probably what he's getting withheld for his federal. The average federal tax rate's 25%, and then you tack on 15% for Medicare, and a lot of people don't see the 15% number. What you see for your Medicare and Social Security is 7.5%, but your employer's putting in 7.5% too, and that's money that would have been going in your pocket if they didn't have to kick it out to the federal government. So that's 15%, and then if your average state taxes, let's say at 6%. Now you're at 46% in taxes, and you haven't even paid sales tax. So now whatever you got left over, obviously you have to spend it just to survive. And if you're going to pay 6% sales tax on that, now you're at 52. You haven't even paid your rent to the government for your property yet, because you're a serf. You don't own your property. Even if you've got the deed, even if you've paid off your mortgage, you don't own it. The government owns it, because if you don't pay those property taxes, they're going to come repossess it. They'll come lock you up, kick you out, just like a serf.
Yeah, you're speaking to my heart right now, Mark. I'm telling you, I say this all the time. We don't own anything anymore. We're just renting it from the government like serfs to a king. I mean, there is no property rights anymore. The game has changed, you know, and our founders, they knew that property rights was one of the most important things that they could fight for and that they could stand for. That's why they made such a big deal about it. But yet this property tax thing came in. Then additionally, now we see that we're also having a state tax, which, by the way, I think has got to be the most despicable tax there can possibly be. As you were saying, you were tallying it all up, like 52% before you even start spending your money. And this is comical, because we were just talking about this with John, you know. All these people in the cart, only a few people pulling it. And those people are getting taxed out the wazoo, and eventually they just give up. It's like the Ayn Rand book, Atlas Shrugged. It's the same concept.
Absolutely.
You're carrying the weight of the world on you, and eventually you just give up and you just shrug it off. That's what it's going to come down to, and it's really just, it's blowing me away how many people fail to see this. And like I said, I talk about, you know, property tax all the time on this show, and I talk about the estate tax. I think that has to be the most morally bankrupt tax that you can possibly put on people, because people are sitting here crying, upset about losing a loved one, and then you go and tax the spoils of that person's life. You tax it. You steal what they have left after you've taxed them 52% their entire life. Then you tax it again. It's unbelievable. And you talk about taxation without representation. That person's dead.
And Mac, and maybe an even more insidious tax is the tax of monetary creation, because now if you have actually managed to pay your 52% taxes, pay your property tax, put the gas in your car to go to work, to slave away, to work 8 hours a day, come home and eat dinner and pay your electric bill and all the costs associated with just surviving so you can get up and go tomorrow and get back on the hamster wheel. If you've managed to scrape up $10 or $20 that you can stick in the bank at the end of the week, you think that money's home free. It's not. That's getting taxed through monetary creation. And the way they do that is the central bank prints money. They spend it on welfare and warfare. Everything that John talked about. He talked about handing out money to folks that just don't do anything, and he also talked about buying allies. You know, that's whether we're buying tanks or planes or whatever for Saudi Arabia, a country that won't let women drive, which, you know, maybe that's not such a bad idea. But, you know, if you're caught with the Bible, or you're caught converting to Christianity in that country, they'll kill you. And we're propping up a kingdom regime like that's way worse than most of the people that we condemn for being dictators. And that money is stolen because when they print that money, that value has to come from somewhere. And that value doesn't just magically appear out of a unicorn's butt. It has to come from somewhere. And that value comes from the $20 that you were able to scrape and put aside to the bank. So a very simple economics lessons here is if we've got $10 and 10 pizzas, each pizza, and that's the only two things that exist in this simple economy, are the 10 pizzas and the $10. Each pizza is worth $1. Now, if we print up 10 more dollars, we just inflated those pizzas by 100%, because now there's still the same amount of goods and services in the simple economy of 10 pizzas, and now we've got twice as much money. Now we've got $20 floating around. So now each pizza costs $2. So if you'd worked hard all day and managed to save $1, you used to have enough money to buy a pizza. Now you only have enough money to buy half a pizza, and that's a tax. Just the same as any other tax, and it's one that you never see coming, because when you look at your bank account, you still have the same amount of dollars, but they don't buy what they used to buy because the central bank devalued them by printing more so they could give handouts to the lazy and buy friends in bad places.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I could not agree more with you, and I love that analogy that you just had. It's got to be the most basic way to explain that process. You know, the Federal Reserve, they are not federal, first and foremost. They are a private banking entity, and they don't contain any reserves. What they do is they surreptitiously steal the money in your bank account. They print more and more money, and technically they're right when they say that they don't print, because they don't. They digitize. What they do is they literally add zeros to bank accounts. And what that does is deflates the money that you and I have in ours. So every dollar that we have becomes worth less and less. And the more that they do this, as your book, you know, it talked about the economy collapsing and everything, eventually our money becomes being less and less value to eventually being worthless. It's not worth the paper it's printed on. And this is a really dangerous path that we're on, and we seem to be heading there full steam with the QE programs that have been out. I'm not sure. Didn't they just end the QE just a moment ago, or are they talking about it?
They just ended it, but during that process, they doubled the money supply. So we took basically the M2 money supply from somewhere, I think it was around $5 trillion to $10 trillion. So all that money is sloshing around out there, and it's eventually going to start looking for a home. And whether it's going to create an asset bubble in stocks or housing or whatever, we're going to eventually see it. And we're already starting to see it because we're seeing it into the things that we need. We're not seeing it so much in luxury items that you would often think that you would see it in, but we're starting to see it in coffee and peanut butter and milk and hamburger and chicken, in the things that we have to have. And that's the worst place for inflation to go, because when they average it all out, you know, the people at the Federal Reserve and Bureau of Labor Statistics, they think that we don't have any inflation, or that it's really, really low, because they've averaged it all out, and they've averaged in all these things that we don't really need. But when you look at things like food and energy and the things that we have to survive, inflation's through the roof.
Absolutely. You are spot on today, Mark. So, hey, Mark, I got to cut to a quick commercial break. When we come back, I'd like to talk a little bit more about your show and some of the other topics that you're interested in right now, as far as things happening in the news, especially in terms of emergency preparedness. That's a topic that I like to touch on, but I don't dive into it as much as you definitely do, and I want to definitely hear your insight. I think you've got a lot of good things on your mind and points to make on it. So would you mind sticking with us for a few minutes?
I'll be here.
Okay. All right. We'll be right back, everybody, and don't go anywhere.
Support On The Move. Help us make this podcast bigger and better. You can do this by going to our store and purchasing one of our hundreds of products. All designs are original and made for patriots like you. Just go to cafepress.com/OnTheMoveShow. We appreciate your support. Hi, I'm Latasha Worley, and I work with candidates to creatively and effectively communicate their message to voters. I offer professional graphic design services, from yard signs to flyers, from logos to vehicle magnets. Email me today at latashaworley@gmail.com. That's LAGOSHA Worley@gmail.com for a quote on items for your campaign.
Broadcasting from deep within occupied territory on the far left coast. You're listening to On the Move with Mack Worley III. Stand up, speak out, and get on the move. And now your host, Mack Worley III.
And we're back. The number to the show, if you want to join today's conversation, if you got a question for Mark or myself, please give us a call. The number is 619-924-0986. Again, 619-924-0986. Or you can email the show at talk@onthemoveshow.com. And like I said, I'm sitting here with Mark Goodwin. He's the host of the show Prepper Recon. He's also an author of several books. Highly recommend reading his books and checking it out. I'm a fan. Big fan of his work, and it's an absolute pleasure to have you on the show today, Mark.
And it's so great to be here, Mac. It's really an honor to be on.
Well, again, I think the honor's mine. So no, I'm just kidding. So, all right, hey, I want to talk about your show and some of the upcoming stuff that you have coming up. I know obviously I'm going to be a guest, but I also anything you guys got going on, some of the topics that you guys have covered recently, and some things that are really pressing your mind lately.
Well, we're always focused on trying to get people to be prepared to get by without systems of support, which is something that we always have throughout history, whether it's a hurricane or an earthquake or an Ebola outbreak where you have to shelter in place and you're not able to go out, or a terrorist attack, or whatever it happens to be. I think it's a great idea for folks to just be able to hunker down and get through and get by without having to go to the grocery store or the bank or the gas station or any of those types of things for, at least plan to be able to do that for 72 hours, even if you don't live in a zone that's prone to those types of things. We had, I guess it was last year, it was in West Virginia, and it was a couple of little towns that were near the river, and some solution that they used to clean the coal or do something to the coal leaked into the river, and it just contaminated the entire water table, and people were fighting over water because you couldn't even filter that out. If you either had stored water or you didn't have any water because it was unusable because of the chemicals that got in it. That happened. I think it was in Ohio. That also happened maybe about a year ago as well. And you need to have some water stored. Filtration is a great idea as well. I think you should always have a couple of different ways to filter your water. At the very, very least, know how much bleach you need to clean a gallon of water, and that's 8 drops of bleach to purify clear water. And if the water's cloudy and that's all you have to choose from, 16 drops will purify that. And you can always pre-filter it as well by just pouring it through a sheet, from one bucket into the other by using a sheet to filter out some of the sediment, or a sock or whatever you happen to have that you can just, kind of think outside of the box and think in a sort of a survival mindset, and make sure you've got some food because, when electricity goes out, anything can knock out the electricity. It could be a cyber attack on our grid, EMPs, from an unfriendly neighbor, because we're doing a great job of reigniting the Cold War by sticking our nose where it doesn't belong. And we've got another president that's making friends and influencing people around the world, and you never know when one of them's going to decide to detonate a high altitude nuclear device and knock out our power grid. The sun could choose to do that because it's chosen to do that before in the past, and we haven't had computer systems and the things that are quite so fragile and so susceptible to electromagnetic pulse as we do these days. So we don't really know how often the sun shoots out those types of flares that can really take us down for a while. So when the electricity goes out, there's no banks, there's no grocery stores, because the grocery stores, a lot of them, they don't have lights. They don't, we're so dependent on computers now. Most of the cashiers wouldn't be able to add up your total with a calculator if they had a calculator that could operate without electricity. And their drawer won't open, and there's no change, and everybody's, we're such a credit card dependent society now. Nobody knows what to do when the electricity goes out. So it's a great idea to have at least the very, very minimum. This is just a starting place, but 3 days worth of food and water stockpiled in your home. And you need to be able to defend yourself if things get bad, because when people get hungry, they get mean. And you have to think about what you're going to do to defend your life and your family and your supplies that you've been able to put to the side. And even before you get into all of that, people need to think about their budget, because if we do have an economic collapse, the most likely thing is that we're going to see this slow downward spiral that we've been witnessing for the past decade. And in that, a lot of people have lost their jobs, and a lot of other people have gotten downsized, and other people have had to give up a good job and take a lesser job. And if you're already living on a good budget and you're already stripped down, you're already couponing, and you're already driving a car that doesn't have payments because you're driving a beater, and you've got an envelope that instead of making a car payment, you're putting money in that envelope every month. And saving up for a better car while you drive that beater around town that's got smoke coming out of it and duct tape on the window and all of that stuff. You're making better choices. So if you do have an economic event in your own personal life, you're more equipped to deal with it, because you're not living above and beyond your means already, and you're already making $1,000 a week and spending $1,200. So what you want to be doing is whatever you're making, you want to be spending a lot less than that, so that you're able to save something, and you're creating a cushion, and you're already more well adjusted if you have to make cuts. And so budget's so important. And also, the money that you are saving, and I don't give out financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor, but I can tell people what I do for myself. And I take a portion of that money and I put it into silver and gold. And especially right now, it's just so, I think, very, very undervalued. Silver at $16 an ounce is about $4 an ounce under what the average mine's paying to bring it out of the ground. There are some mines out there that might be pulling it out at $17 or $18, but the average mine is paying about $20 an ounce to get it out of the ground, refine it, and get it to market. So the laws of supply and demand are going to kick in at some point, and either the price has to go up to where those guys are at least breaking even to stay in business, or they have to close down their mines. And if they do that, then we're going to get a supply crunch, because demand on silver is really, really high. As a matter of fact, last week, the U.S. Mint announced that they're not going to be selling any more U.S. Silver Eagles until further notice, which is more than likely they're not going to be selling anymore until January, when they come out for the 2015s. So, and that's due to just a really, really high demand, record demand on Silver Eagles, and I think the Canadian Mint's also seeing record demand for that. But then we also use silver for cell phones. We use it for automobiles. We use it for solar panels. There's so many applications that it's used for in the business world and technology world that those companies, it doesn't matter what the price goes to, they're going to have to buy it. And you start seeing mines shut down, they're going to pay whatever they have to pay to be able to produce that next iPhone and those solar panels and whatever else they have to make. So I think silver right now is a really, really attractive thing for me that I've been stacking a little bit more, and I keep my eye on that.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I've been doing the same thing. You said that anything can knock out your power, and I've had a very recent experience here. It was I think it was last week, if I'm remembering correctly, or maybe it was this week. Anyway, we had a real big windstorm that blew through here, and a giant 60-foot Douglas fir tree in my neighborhood got knocked over, and it was pushed over across the power lines, and it ripped all the power lines down, ripped power lines like literally right off the front of my house, and we had loose live wires that were hanging in front of the house and everything, and it was just crazy. Our power was out for about I think it was 7 hours, something like that. And I was expecting it based on what I saw out the front door. I was expecting it to be crazy. I thought that this was going to be a long power outage experience. And it's winter here. It's starting to be part of the coldest part of the year. Washington doesn't get really that cold, but still, it was cold with no heat. So, for me, being a prepper, the very first thing I did is I'm like, all right, time to bust into my prep. So I run upstairs and I grab my bug out bag and I'm looking through some stuff and I'm trying to find, lights and things like that, emergency candles and things. So, my wife and I were set up in the living room, and it's just a different experience when you have no power. It is a real eye opener at how different your life is and would be with no power. And I'm curious, Mark, have you been in any kind of scenarios where you had to dive into your preps, either big or small?
Man, I live in South Florida, so every 10 or 20 years we get a big storm that rolls through here and just takes out everything. So and that's one of the good things about living in a hurricane-prone area is that most people are at least open to the conversation because they know what it's like to not be able to go to the grocery store. For weeks, we had Hurricane Wilma. That was, I guess, about 10 years ago or so, maybe a little less, maybe 8 years ago. And we had no electricity for about 2 weeks, and for maybe 3 or 4 days there was no water because they ran out of power in the generators that were pumping the water, and there was no water for a while, and there was no grocery stores. Of course, there's no banks. There were a few little the first 3 or 4 days, there are a few little mom and pop places around that if you went in and you had exact change, you could buy things with cash. And there was, they'd let 2 or 3 people in at a time. And there's somebody standing at the front door with a baseball bat and letting 2 or 3 people in at a time, make their purchase. They'd leave, and then they'd let in 2 or 3 more people. And they did that and sold, to get rid of as much stuff that was going to go bad as they could. And then also, whatever dry goods they had, because they were able to still do business. But the big chain places, which down here the chain grocery stores, Publix, and we've got Winn-Dixie and Whole Foods and all those places, they're just closed. Walmart's, Targets, those places do not open their doors if there's no electricity. It doesn't matter if you've got cash. It doesn't matter what they're going to throw in the garbage. They just don't open the doors.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things. It's insurance. It's an insurance policy, and just like car insurance, you either get it before you have the wreck or you don't get it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I cannot say how important it is to actually have some preps on hand. 72 hours worth of food and water, I think that is a bare minimum. Honestly, I push for at least a month for new people, a month worth of supplies, because you never know what's going to happen. And as you said, 2 weeks without power, 2 weeks possibly without hot water, 2 weeks without a way to cook. That is incredible if you really sit down and think about it. If somebody's never been in that scenario, how dramatically your life would be different without power. The average American, from what I remember reading, it watches about 5 hours of TV a day. 5 hours of TV. So that time, that's gone. What are you going to do with that 5 hours of time? You're sitting in the dark. That's really, you may have some candles lit. What will it be like? On top of which, obviously survival in itself, not just the whole, what your entertainment will be like, but it could be cold. You could not be able to cook your food. What are you going to do for that? What's your answer? These are all questions that you need to have already asked yourself. Although it does help to have already been in the situation, because, I found myself when the lights were out, 7 hours of it, I was like, there were a few times where I saw these few 100-hour candles that have like oil in it, the emergency candles. And, I really wished I would have hopped on the candle bandwagon a little more now, because, I don't want to waste batteries, and there's a whole bunch of cheap candles out there. So that's definitely, after the power going out, I'm going to buy a crap load of candles now. I'm going candle crazy. So, but, it helps to dive into your preps. I love it. Anytime that something happens, somebody will get a splinter, and I'm like, let me get my first aid kit. I'm like, I'm
let me put an Israeli battle dressing on that for you.
Yeah, exactly. I'm the first person to try to let me get my kit. 'cause I want to use it. I want to see what it's like. And there's a joke, that goes. I can't remember who said it now, but the worst or the hardest thing about the zombie apocalypse is going to be pretending that I'm not totally excited. And that's true. I mean, to an extent. I've prepped. I've thought about so many scenarios. As soon as one happens, I'm the first person to try to get there and fix it and use my stuff and learn from that experience, because you never know when you're going to need that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and then some folks get prepper fatigue because they spend so much time thinking about it and getting ready for it, and then nothing happens, and they start getting that mindset of, why did I waste all this time and energy? But you don't think that about your car insurance. Why did I spent all that money on car insurance, and then all year I didn't have a wreck, and I'm bummed out because I didn't have a wreck. No, I'm glad I didn't have to use that stuff, and now I've still got it, and unlike car insurance, it's not money that went out the window. I've still got my bug out bag. I've still got my beans and rice, which, for people that are just starting up, beans and rice are the cheapest way to kickstart a food storage plan. You can get a 5-gallon bucket and put a 20-pound bag of rice in there and 10 1-pound bags of dried beans in there. And as long as you're going to have some method of cooking that, and you know how to cook it, and learn how to cook it now before the lights go out, because it's so much easier to get over that learning curve now. And that's everything, whether you're gardening or learning to use your firearm, or you're learning to use your Israeli battle dressing or anything. Get that stuff out and play with it, and learn how to use it, learn how to cook, learn how to do all that stuff before game day, because it's going to be very, very tough. It's going to be very, very stressful when and if that day comes. And anyway, 7-pound, 20-pound bag of rice is about $7 at Walmart. And a pound of beans is about $1. So for $17, you can put almost 10 days worth of food for 2 people in a 5-gallon bucket, and just slide that in the under your bed or in your closet or whatever, and that stuff will keep for about 20 years on the white rice and about 10 years on the beans. So, and it's cheap, $17.
Money well spent. Money well spent. This is words of wisdom from Mark Goodwin. So, hey, Mark, we're going to have to take off here and go to the next segment. It has been an absolute pleasure having you on the show. Again, thank you so much for joining us. Can you give our listeners your website, all your information, social media, anything you got going on? Go ahead and blast it out so they can find you.
Sure. We do the Prepper Recon podcast, and that's every Monday and Wednesday. We've got a new show. You just go over there, and it's on demand, so it doesn't matter what time you go there on Monday or Wednesday, and you can click. You can stream it from the website, or you can download it. For folks that are looking to be a little bit more prepared, if you go to the Prepper Recon store, you just click the store tab at the top of the page, and we've got a lot of nice prepper stuff there. We've got a great med kit that's got stitches, Israeli battle dressing, quick clot, EMT shears, all the stuff that you would need to address a traumatic injury. And it's in a little MOLLE pack, so you can attach it to a MOLLE compatible backpack or tactical vest, or you can just wear it on your belt. It's perfect size for a car or whatever. $89, that includes shipping. And if you'll put instructions, if you'll click on the instructions for seller button there, and you'll put on the move, then any order, I'll send you the PDF of my new book, The Days of Noah, Book 1, Conspiracy. I'll send you that in PDF form, and then also that's available on Amazon, as well as the paperback, Kindle, and audio edition of that, and then also the first series is called The Economic Collapse Chronicles, and book 1 of that is American Exit Strategy. And all of those books are PDF, Kindle, audio, and paperback.
Yes, sir.
And it's prepperrecon.com.
Prepperrecon.com, guys. Check him out. Thank you so much again, Mark, for coming on. And for the rest of you guys out there in listener land, check out his stuff. I can't speak more highly of Mark's books. It's been about a year since I read them. I'm going to reread them as soon as I get my hands on the third volume. I'm rereading 1 and 2, and I'm really looking forward to the next trilogy that comes out. So check out his stuff. Great books. It keeps you on the edge of your seat, and I love them. Honestly, and I'm not getting paid by him or anything. I'm a fan. I'm a big fan of Mark. So PrepperRecon.com. All right, guys, at this point, we're going to cut to a quick commercial break. When we come back, I'm going to do a deep dive here in the Mack attack, so don't go anywhere.
Support On The Move. Help us make this podcast bigger and better. You can do this by going to our store and purchasing one of our hundreds of products. All designs are original and made for patriots like you. Just go to cafepress.com/onthemoveshow. We appreciate your support. Hi, I'm Latasha Worley, and I work with candidates to creatively and effectively communicate their message to voters. I offer professional graphic design services from yard signs to flyers, from logos to vehicle magnets. Email me today at latashaworley@gmail.com. That's LAGOSHA Worley@gmail.com for a quote on items for your campaign.
Broadcasting from deep within occupied territory on the far left coast. You're listening to On the Move with Mack Worley III. Stand up, speak out, and get on the move. And now your host, Mack Worley III.
And we're back. I appreciate you all sticking with us. So at this point, I'm going to take a Skype call, and I haven't done this before, so it's very likely I could screw this up. Give me one moment. We're going to give this a try. But of course, I have messed it up. I am not a tech guy. I fully admit I'm not a tech guy. I'm glad I warned you guys that wasn't going to work, because it didn't work. Anyway, he's going to call on his cell phone and give us a try, because apparently I don't know what I'm doing when it comes to Skype, and I've got a lot to learn. Anywho, Casey will be giving us a call. He wants to talk a little bit about a rally that's going to be happening in February in Salem, Oregon. I'm going to give him a moment to kind of promote what's going on with that and let him know, let you guys know about the event. But anyway, it looks like we got him on the line now. I'm going to go ahead and put him on. Hey, Casey, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here, Mac.
All right. Sorry about the tech problems, man. I'm telling you, I'm not a tech guy. I'm not very tech savvy, so I screw things up all the time.
yeah, don't worry about it. I've talked to Bill Post on his show through Skype before, and it just works out so much better just because of the poor cell service I get where I live down here on the South Coast.
Yes, sir. So first of all, to our listeners and everything, I kind of gave them a little bit of a briefing as far as what you're calling about. Can you talk about this event that you guys got going on in Salem? What it's about? What you're going to do?
Yeah. A couple of us guys got together. We've met at previous rallies, mainly the January and February 2013 rallies that we had in Salem. Those were the Guns Across America rallies. Those were the knee-jerk initiatives that the state was putting together. So we well, not me, myself, Tom Tharp and some other gentlemen put together Guns Across America, and those were very successful rallies. Now, with the newly elected Democrat supermajority we have here in Oregon, we took it upon ourselves to take the initiative to get a rally together to nip this in the bud and hopefully defeat any proposed gun control in Oregon. We've called the rally the Heirs of Patrick Henry Northwest, and we have a Facebook group. The event is taking place on February 9th, 2015. We wanted it to be the second because that's the first day of the 2015 legislative session. Unfortunately, due to a conflict with another group having a gathering that day, we decided to push it back 1 week. So we do have the steps of the Oregon State House, and we're hoping to fill the entire State Mall, the entire park there that's on the opposite side of Capitol Street, there in Salem, across from the Oregon Capitol building. So that's going to be on February 9th at 8 a.m. On the second week of the 2015 legislative session.
Yes, sir. All right. Well, yeah, I'm definitely going to look into that and see if I can make it out to that one. Are you aware of what's going on with the We Will Not Comply campaign up here in Washington?
I am very aware of that, and I have Gavin Syme has the full support of me and everybody down here in Oregon as far as I'm concerned. I'm hoping on being able to attend that. The only reason I won't be able to is because of the distance. Up there in Olympia, all the way down here from the south coast of Oregon is quite a drive, and I'm just not sure if that's going to be able to be doable right now. But I am going to try and make that because I do think that is an awesome thing that Gavin has put together, and it deserves the full support of everybody. What's happened and what we're trying to avoid here in Oregon, what's already happened in Washington, what I-594 was democracy in action. The masses voting against people's rights. And we can't allow that to continue. We can't allow this to happen. Not here.
Yes, sir. Yeah, you guys have my full support, too. By the way, Casey, just on a personal note here, I am going up to the We Will Not Comply one for sure. I've already penciled that out on my calendar. But if you need a ride, feel free to hit me up on Facebook, man. If you can make it up to Portland, I'll take it the rest of the way and back. So, anyway.
All right.
Yeah, I sure do appreciate you coming on to spread the word about this rally. I'm going to try to be there if I absolutely can. I haven't looked as far as February, so I'm pretty sure you're going to be the first person on my calendar on that day. So I'm looking forward to it. It'd be nice to come down there and support the Oregonian struggle for gun rights. I know you guys have it hard. You're living in the shadow of Portland with the massive liberal infestation that you got over there. So keep up the fight,
yes.
Man.
Well, we plan on that. I appreciate that, Mack.
Yes, sir. Well, anything I can do for you guys, just feel free to give me a holler. If you want to give any Facebook information so people can find your event and everything on that, feel free.
Yeah. It's called the Heirs of Patrick Henry Northwest. That's the name of the group, and it's also an event under the same title.
Yes, sir. All right. Well, thanks again for coming on to spread the word. Do you have any final thoughts? Anything else on your mind?
Well, that's what I was mainly coming on to try and spread the word on. So I appreciate you doing that for us, Mack.
Yes, sir. No problem at all. Well, anyway, guys, that was Casey Runyon. Check out his event. It's going to be in February, and I'm pretty excited. Hopefully I can make it to that one. I'm pretty sure. I just got to look at my schedule and double-check to make sure I don't have anything. But it's February 9th, the Heirs of Patrick Henry Northwest. It's going to be in Oregon State at the Capitol Building. That's 900 Court Street, Northeast, Salem, Oregon, 97301. It's going to start at 8 a.m. Whew, that's early. You guys started bright and early on that one. All right. I'm gonna try to do what I can to be there. Absolutely. So, all right, guys. I want to move into the next segment of the show. It's something that I think that we really need to take care of here. We really need to deep dive into this here. What happened with these elections? What does it mean to us? So we're going to break this down in the next segment that we like to call the Mack Attack. All right, this is a segment of the show where I report about outrageous events in the news. And what can be more outrageous than us taking it back, all right? Sticking it to the man. That's pretty outrageous, right? Or so it should be. You know, this isn't necessarily a win for the American people. It's a win for the Republican Party, yes, absolutely. This landslide victory is a definite win for the Republican Party. And it's a definite loss for the Democrats. Definitely a loss. But just because the Republicans won, that doesn't mean that America won. Will we be victorious in the end of this? Who knows? I can't really say. I'm not a soothsayer. I can't predict the future. But what I am able to do is to look at the past. And so what we see here now is the Democrats. It was a massive defeat, huge, massive landslide defeat, and it wasn't just in the House and the Senate. It was also in the gubernatorial races, the governor races. Okay, so these governors are now really, you know, it looks pretty good. It's looking pretty good. I mean, we got some people, like, for example, the governor of Ohio. Okay, I'm not really sure about him, even though he's a Republican. But for the most part, a lot of governor races went to the Republicans, which is better, again, than the people who are driving us full steam off the cliff. You know, people going 100 miles per hour, the liberals, the Democrats, progressives, Marxists, the list goes on, all the ists, socialist, communists, you get the drift. Anyway, it's better than those people, but again, Republicans, not all of them, but for the most part, party establishment Republicans, they're still driving us off the cliff. They're just, instead of 100 miles per hour, they want to do it at 50. So we'll get there at half the time. The end result is still the same, though. So what was this election? What did it mean? Ultimately, it definitely meant that Obama was up for election. It may be not for his office, but his policies, surely. And you could see how far the Democrats tried to distance themselves and separate themselves from Obama. So many people didn't even want to be seen with Obama. And, you know, again, the typical Saul Alinsky tactics, ends justify the means. He said, you know, they got to do whatever it takes to win. This is him, by the way. This is his quote, is that, and I'm roughly paraphrasing, just so you know, I'm not exactly quoting him, but he said, you know, if they want me to stay away, that's fine. Whatever it takes to win, you know, I understand. So they're not disavowing me. They're just trying to do what it takes to win. So whatever. Anyway, this was a referendum on Obama. It was a referendum on his Obamacare and his immigration plan for sure. Both of those were big-time losers. And all but the bluest of blue states. Every state that was somewhat purple, even in the least bit purple, those states, big-time wins for the Republicans. Woohoo for liberty for now. Okay, let's see. What were we discussing here about Obamacare? I mean, obviously, we've all seen that the health insurance is drastically increasing. Your premiums are more expensive, and you know. One thing that I just want to point out that has been in the news cycle, and I feel like it's a little interesting that this came out a little bit after the elections, but if you've been following the news cycle, you've all heard of the MIT guy, Jonathan Gruber. He was a consultant for his work on Obamacare. He was paid $400,000 for his work on Obamacare. So apparently this man did something, right? He did something rather notably, at least something worth $400,000. Right? They don't just write those checks for nothing, or do they? I mean, sometimes, you know, we got $10,000 plasma TV screens, you know, $1 million hammer. You know, this kind of stuff happens a lot. However, this guy obviously had some kind of hand, and he says that he's an author of major portions of Obamacare. So now it comes out that Gruber, he was at some kind of academic conference, and he's on record now saying, again, the author of Obamacare, one of the authors anyway, that a big thing that they did was push it through under the radar, hoping that the American people would be too stupid. So, and don't listen to my, you know, paraphrasing of his quote. I have it here right now. I'll play the clip.
It's just, you can't do it politically. You just literally cannot do it. Okay, transparent financing, unless I have transparent financing, also transparent spending. I mean, this bill was written in a tortured way to make sure CBO did not score the mandate as taxes. If CBO scored the mandate as taxes, the bill dies. Okay, so it's written to do that. In terms of risk-rated subsidies, if you had a law which said healthy people are going to pay in, it made explicit that healthy people pay in and sick people get money, it would not have passed. Okay, just like lack of transparency is a huge political advantage, and basically.
Lack of transparency is a huge political advantage, and this is what these people do. But I digress. He went on.
Call it the stupidity of the American voter or whatever. But basically, that was really, really critical to getting the thing to pass. And, it's the second best argument. Look, I wish Mark was right. We could make it all transparent, but I'd rather have this law than not. So it's kind of like his reporter story. There's things I wish I could change, but I'd rather have this law than not.
The American people are too stupid. Call it the stupidity of the American people. That's what he said. Those are his words. I'm not putting any words in his mouth. Those are his words. And again, Saul Alinsky tactics we see once again. And, I've been warning about this whole time. I feel like I've been standing on a rooftop screaming from the top of my lungs, look out for these guys. They're fooling you. They're lying. I've been saying this for a long time, and many of you, the Mack Pack, have been as well. We already knew this. We already knew that they were doing Saul Alinsky tactics. We already knew that they think that the ends justify the means. No matter lie, cheat, steal, doesn't matter. No matter what they do, they can justify the end result as long as they get what they want. This guy, hey, you know what? I'd like to have transparency, but it's not good for political advantage if you have transparency. You have a little bit of a problem if people know what you're trying to do, so you trick it. You trick people. You twist the truth around, okay? We already knew this, but again, they think that we're all stupid. We've known this from the beginning, what they were doing. You and me, we were on to their tricks, especially after, they told us things like, what Nancy Pelosi did. Let me find the clip here. I got the clip somewhere here. Nancy Pelosi says this.
But we have to pass the bill so that you can find out what is in it away from the fog of the controversy.
Oh, okay. So we have to pass the bill to find out what's in it, away from the fog of the controversy. Well, how about you just tell us what's in it or show us what's in it? We don't have to pass anything. We don't have to do anything until you show us what it is. We don't have to. So, we all knew what they were trying to do with the fog of war. It feels good to know that you were right, though, doesn't it, guys? I mean, we all knew. We've known from the beginning. It's got to feel good, right? Well, let's enjoy it. I know it feels good, but I didn't need to have this information come out from the author to know. I already knew. And anyone who actually bothered to pay attention would have known this a long time ago. What about Obama's hardcore supporters? This is the question that I'm really interested to know is, can you imagine how they feel right now? Imagine somebody that's all drunk on the hope and change from 2008, and Obama, as far as they're concerned, can do no wrong. Even after all of the stumbles and the failures of Obamacare, even after you find out that your rates are going to double and triple, even after Obama comes out with the biggest lie any president has ever told, if you like your health care plan, you can keep it. And then the author of Obamacare comes out and says that he purposefully deceived the American people because he thinks that they're dumb. Meaning anybody who fell for it is dumb. How dumb they must feel. They have to. I know I would. If I was carrying the water for somebody, hardcore supporting somebody, and then I found out that they thought I was an idiot for doing it, I was a useless idiot, as Karl Marx once said, and referring to the people that he used to push his socialist, Marxist, communist agenda. Use these useful idiots like college kids to push your agenda because they don't know what they're doing. They're just stupid. So if I was a useful idiot, I would feel so dumb. Right now, if I was a hardcore Obama cadre supporter, I would really have a bad taste in my mouth. I don't know what I would do. Do you dig into your ignorant position, or do you adamantly oppose Obama now? What do you do? Well, if they're listening right now, I'm not going to say I told you so. No, I would not do that, because for me to do that, that would be to lower me. Saying I told you so is beneath me.
I told you so. Oh, I told you so.
No, I would never do that. I would never say I told you so.
I told you so. Oh, I told you so.
Because doing that is wrong, and it would only serve to rub it in their faces. And, I don't need to do that. I don't need to rub in the face of these people that they were wrong and I was right and we all were right. Again, I would never do that.
I told you so. Oh, I told you so.
No, not me, because doing that would only widen the gap between us.
I told you so. Oh, I told you so.
It's a good thing that they don't listen to our show. Anyway, but seriously, these people were duped and using Saul Alinsky tactics. Again, the ends justify the means. And remember, Rules for Radicals, which, by the way, is the progressive playbook. It's their handbook. This is what they're doing play by play. It's written by Saul Alinsky, and it was dedicated to the greatest deceiver of all, Lucifer. Right there, it says it all. The greatest deceiver of all. Everything is based on deception as far as the progressives are concerned. Everything is fog and mirrors. Everything. It's an illusion. Okay? So it doesn't take a crystal ball or psychic powers to know what they're going to do. All you have to do is to listen to them. You just take these people at their word. They tell you what they're going to do. They mean what they say. Obama said that he was going to fundamentally transform America. Did these idiots think that he was joking? America is a pretty amazing place, all right? We were talking about this earlier on the show. We are the last remaining beacon of hope for humanity. Why would any of these idiotic leftists want to become more like China, Russia, or worse, North Korea? Why? Why would we want to be like a communistic, socialistic, Marxist place? Why? Why? We are the shining country on the hill. We are the beacon for humanity. We are the world's last hope. Everyone, when they're running from tyranny, they come here. Why would we want to change our stuff to like what they have? Who wants to fundamentally change America like that, other than the uninformed voters, the useless idiots? These people, they don't realize what they've been doing. But things have changed even in this country now. I mean, especially since Obama took office. We were gradually losing our rights, but now it seems more swiftly in the last 6 years. Since Obama has taken the office of the presidency, we've lost our rights little by little, even more, even quicker. We had the NSA spying scandal where we had Edward Snowden who released all that information, and now he's off hiding right now, and who's to blame him? You saw what happened to Bradley or Chelsea Manning. I mean, right now, rotting in jail for whistleblowing, which is supposed to be protected. But I digress. Anyway, we had the Benghazi scandal, and the media covered up for Obama. I mean, in unbelievable ways. And, Hillary Clinton says, what difference does it make anyway? Okay, well, whatever. Well, let's move forward here. We have the IRS politically targeting the Tea Party. Yeah, that's a great way to handle things, right? That's America. That's how you fundamentally change America, is you start using the government to politically target your political opposition. I can't help but just feel that this has got to be the worst of them all, right here, the worst. Maybe I spoke too soon. We forgot about Operation Fast and Furious, where they let guns walk across the border in an effort to make it look like the violence in Mexico is all because of American guns. And because of that, we should give up our right to bear arms because we're killing people over in Mexico, right? No, wrong. The government let people known to be cartel workers, people who would smuggle weapons in and out of Mexico for the cartel. They let known cartel smugglers purchase American arms and walk them across the border. This resulted in the death of border agent Brian Terry. All right, he was killed by one of these guns that walked across the border, and countless Mexican people over there who've died from these weapons as well. That is the worst, right? Yeah, okay. I think that is the icing on the cake. That is the worst one. Okay. But anyway, we've seen these people, and we've listened to what they say, and we take them at their word. They say that they're going to try to take our guns. They say that they're going to fundamentally transform America. And just like I listened to Dianne Feinstein when she says,
if I could have gotten 51 votes in the Senate of the United States for an outright ban, picking up every one of them, Mr. and Mrs. America, turn them all in, I would have done it.
Of course she would have done it. We've been saying this for a long time.
I told you so.
And it boggles my mind that anyone could logically come to the conclusion that the left does not want to fundamentally transform America into a socialist, communist, Marxist society where the oligarchy have all the power, we peasants have none. The Second Amendment is the reason it hasn't gotten that far. If they go after the second, they'll go after the first. Sooner than later, you'll see them going after the fourth, which they already disregarded anyway. They already conduct illegal searches. They already try to fake search warrants. We saw that the Secret Service asked a local police department to do that very same thing, and the police department refused, and it made the news. We already know that they're doing these things. They're already violating the Constitution, and we're not supposed to be paying attention, but we are. We are paying attention. We've been shouting it from the rooftops.
I told you so. Oh, I told you so.
And we've been saying that Obamacare is socialism. We've been saying that it is this universal health care, that it's not what they're saying it is. It's going to take from the many and give to the few. People are pulling the carriage. You got people sitting in their entitlement carriages being drugged by everyone else. And eventually, more and more people drop out of it, out of the rat race, and realize it's easier if I just suck on the teat of everyone else. Let everyone else do the work, because when I work, it eventually just goes to other people. That's what happens. 52% of my labors is immediately taxed, upon which, I still have other taxes that are obligated to me, like paying property tax. And then when I die, whatever I have left doesn't go to the next generation. It goes to the government. And then my kids and family get to decide what they want to keep from there. That is what we are seeing today. We have become a huge conglomerate, a federal leviathan that has no bounds. Nothing is beyond its reach. It can affect every aspect of your life. A government, and this is not my quote, I believe this is Reagan's, a government that can give you anything that you want can also take away everything that you have. We have this now. That's why I'm such a big advocate of state sovereignty. That's why I'm so adamantly opposed, as our founders were, against centralized federal power. this was a conversation that was had in the 1700s. It's been had for hundreds of years before that. But this American experiment that we are living in, that our founders tried to establish for us, there was so much fear and concern about giving the central government so much power. That's why we have states to begin with, is because if the federal government goes, we have it doesn't all fall to shambles. It's not a nothing state. There's you have so many other states left to pick up the pieces. There will still be order. That's why it's there. But the most important thing is that the federal government should have never had this much power or control to begin with. And Obamacare, let's look at Obamacare. It was passed without a single Republican vote. So the only people that passed it were the Democrats. And when you talk about socialized medicine, all right, and this conversation has shifted to, well, you got a right to health care. You've got this right, and it's just not fair that people aren't able to see a doctor. I mean, that's just not right. No, that's not true. First of all, you don't have a right to see a doctor. You don't have a right to medicine. To say that you have a right for health care is absurd. First of all, you have a right to purchase health care. No one should be discriminated against because of their race, their color of their skin, their sexual orientation, their religion, none of that. You have an absolute right to buy health care, all right? Because that's serious. It's not like a wedding cake. Health care is important. I will give you that, all right? However, it is a product. It's a good. It's a service. It's a commodity. You don't have a right to that. Just no more than I have a right to a car. Does somebody have an obligation to pay for me and to subsidize me buying a car? No, because that's a good. But I have a right to travel. I have a right to travel. It's innate. That's self-evident, right? I mean, many of us would agree that I have a right to travel. Why don't people buy me a car? If that's really a right, why doesn't the government pay for our cars and we all pay for each other's? It's all one big glorious socialist community. No. The reason why is because you don't have a right to others' property, all right? So saying that you have a right to health care is saying first and foremost that you have a right to your neighbor's money. You have a right to their spoils, their toil, their blood, sweat. You have a right to the fruits of their labor, which you do not. You do not have a right to your neighbor's money whatsoever. Second thing that's saying is that you have a right to the doctor's time, which you do not. You do not have a right to the doctor's time. That doctor has no obligation to work for you for free. That doctor has a business that he's running. And lastly, you're trying to say that you have a right to the research conducted from these pharmaceutical companies, which you don't. They spend a lot of money trying to research this stuff, and granted, some of these are government funded, and if the government has a hand in it, if it's public money used, then yes, you do have a right to that. But if it's a private company, you have no right to that at all. You have a right to buy it just like anybody else. Anyway, another thing here with Obamacare is that it was forced upon the American people. Most people didn't want this. A survey conducted jointly by the Kaiser Family Foundation, ABC News, and USA Today, released in October 2006, found that 89% of Americans were satisfied with their own medical care. 89%. And we totally changed the entire system. We changed it all. Obama, he said that he was going to fundamentally transform America.
I told you so. Oh, I told you so.
And Congress is exempt from Obamacare. Oh, how kind of them, They shove it down our throats and then they're exempt from it. And Americans have to buy a product in order to be in compliance. Otherwise, we are taxed or penalized, depending on how you interpret it, I suppose. I guess the Supreme Court looks at it as a tax instead of a penalty, but I think we all know that this is a penalty. You're getting punished for not conforming. So, we just take them for their word. That's all we do. He said that he wanted to fundamentally change America, and he's worked on it. He's worked diligently on it. He's tried. He's tried to change America. Just take his word for it, that he will do what he says he's going to do. Take their words for it, that they will do what they say. And they hope that you're too stupid or too apathetic to pay attention. But I know you guys, MacPack, I know you're not. I know you guys are the tip of the spear, and I know you give a crap. Anyway, I want to just talk real quick. We got 15 minutes left in the show here. I want to talk about an analogy that I brought up a while back ago. Imagine your liberty as a giant boulder. It's sitting in your front yard, and the government comes by every night, and they take a little chip out of that. Just a little chip, not enough for you to notice. He won't miss that chip. There goes that right. Chip, there goes that right. And then, eventually over the years, you're going to start to notice that this rock got a lot smaller. Maybe you compare some pictures between, what it was 10 years ago and what it is now, and you can see it got a lot smaller. It wasn't noticeable one little chip at a time. But that's what they're doing to us. They're chipping away. And at some point, the chips are going to get dramatically big, because we'll no longer have enough rights to prevent them from taking the rest, and they'll just do as they please. It's just a fact of life. The Rock of Liberty is in danger, and I am very concerned for my country, and I know that you all are too. Anyway, I'd like to talk with you guys if you are interested. The number to the show is 619-924-0986. Again, that's 619-924-0986. And when we come back, I want to talk a little bit about I-594 and what that means for Washington. So we'll be right back. Don't go anywhere, guys.
Support On The Move. Help us make this podcast bigger and better. You can do this by going to our store and purchasing one of our hundreds of products. All designs are original and made for patriots like you. Just go to cafepress.com/onthemoveshow. We appreciate your support. Hi, I'm Latasha Worley, and I work with candidates to creatively and effectively communicate their message to voters. I offer professional graphic design services, from yard signs to flyers, from logos to vehicle magnets. Email me today at latashaworley@gmail.com. That's LATOSHA Worley@gmail.com for a quote on items for your campaign.
Broadcasting from deep within occupied territory on the far left coast. You're listening to On the Move with Mack Worley III. Stand up, speak out, and get on the move. And now your host, Mack Worley III.
Hey, MacPack, we are back. All right. So, number to the show, 619-924-0986. I want to talk about I-594, its passage into Washington. I'm disturbed, shocked, really just disappointed, very, very disappointed. Shame on you, Seattle. Shame on you for telling the rest of the state what to do, telling us how we can assert our rights. Shame on you. And I'm really happy to say that Gavin Syme is putting on that rally December 13th. I Will Not Comply rally. It's in opposition to I-594. Those of you who aren't aware with 594, it criminalizes and makes a felony the transfer of possession of a firearm, okay? Not the transfer of ownership, of possession. So I hand you a gun, we need a background check. You hand it back to me, we need another one. And if you do that, very same thing that I just said, that is 2 felonies. You would have been guilty, both of us, of 2 felonies because we did a transfer without a background check. Well, this I Will Not Comply rally, it will be on December 13th. There's going to be 6,000 plus people in attendance, and they're fed up. A lot of people are mad. A lot of people are really mad. And the event has planned for people to hand their guns off to each other in clear violation of I-594. Recently just came out that the police said that they're not going to enforce I-594 at the rally. They refuse to arrest people for handing their weapons off, and they say that they don't consider it a transfer. Well, I'm here to tell you I've read I-594, and it is a transfer. It is clear as day, crystal clear, that it is a transfer. So everyone up at that rally that hands their gun off will be in violation of a felony according to I-594. And it will be a huge act of civil disobedience. So what do I think is going to happen? I don't think that the police will try to arrest anybody. I think they'll stick to their word as far as at the rally. Now, we all know that the police are an opportunistic arm for revenue creation with the government. So I don't think that they will see a rally with 6,000 plus armed people there as a great way to make some money. I think they will see that as a problem. I don't think that they will risk getting any situation unless it's drastically already illegal or that they can do it quickly. I don't think it's going to be something that the police antagonize, but 6,000 armed people will be there. So I think that they'll let it slide this time, but I think they will use it as an opportunity in the future, to prosecute people. I think they'll use it as an excuse to, try to get people in jail, arrest people. In fact, I know they will. Somebody will. There will be somebody who will not honor their oath and who will believe the literal interpretation, which is fact. I mean, it is a law. I-594. Anytime you hand a gun off without a background check, that's a felony. So it will get enforced at some point, but it will only get enforced in the areas that they can, and they can get away with it. I don't think they're going to make their stand with 6,000 armed people. That's my take on it anyway. And I hope I'm wrong. I hope this is consistent and they just totally ignore the law. I hope I'm wrong. Let me just say that this kind of thing has never happened before. There have never been 6,000 armed people, save, for example, say the Civil War, Revolutionary War. There's never been 6,000 armed people in protest anywhere that I can find anywhere. If you guys hear anything, let me know. But I have yet to hear of a march this big. So the one thing I'd like to do in the last few minutes of the show here is simply urge for peace. And what I mean by that is not to fall victim to the baiters that are going to be out there, the people that will try to incite you to violence, the antagonizers. Those people will be out there, as they're always out there. There's always bad apples in every group, first and all. But I'm adamant that gun owners in this country are very respectful, very polite. I'm adamant that gun owners are probably the safest people and that you have absolutely nothing to worry about. But I know people are angry. I know this because I'm one of them. I'm angry that one city can try to tell me how to live my life and what rights I have. I'm angry. But I'm urging for peace. Don't fall victim to these people who will try to incite you to violence. I want to just guide this conversation in the direction of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., okay? So why was that nonviolent campaign so effective? The answer is because people who were out there, who were not threatening anyone, who were not committing acts of violence in any way, not breaking any true law. They may have been breaking some laws, but they were not constitutional, and they were wrong. People were standing in stark contrast, civil disobedience against injustice. And the reason why it really took root and people got on board with it is because it came into their homes. People saw, struggling black people by dogs. They saw them sprayed with fire hoses. They could see this on their televisions for the first time, and they understood the struggle. They got it. They realized how wrong it was, and they rushed to support. So imagine the optics if we become violent at this Washington rally. How will the media, who already hates our guts, who demonizes us every chance that they get, they will demonize us. Imagine what will happen if we do become violent. I'm urging for peace. Please do not become violent. Now imagine the opposite. Imagine the optics if force is imposed on us as we stand our ground, but we do not use our firearms, which we have and we could use. They could use dogs, pepper spray, fire hoses, rubber bullets, or live rounds. What are we going to do? You need to make up your mind before you set foot at that Capitol on December 13th. What are you going to do? We are in the next civil rights movement right now. And I've been saying this for over a year. This is the battle right now. Gun rights. So if we're seriously committing ourselves to this battle, then we have to be prepared to pay the ultimate price for it. I will not respond to force negatively or positively. If force is used upon me, I will passively resist, but I will not respond. I know this is asking a lot. I know it is. But I hope that you all do the same. The answer here is not violence, and the answer is not overthrowing the government, but to change the hearts and the minds of Americans, the uninformed voters. Gun owners are not the villains that we've been made out to be in the media. It's been proven time and time again that governments do not know how to deal with nonviolent resistance. They only answer nonviolence with violence, force, and coercion. The only tool that they have in their toolbox is a hammer, which makes all of their problems look like nails. So once again, I will ask all of those in attendance on December 13th to remain peaceful, even if provoked. Yes, you have a right to defend yourself. I will not deny you that. But this is the future of gun rights in America. I am prepared to die for this. I have made that decision. I can only hope that others have done the same thing. You have to search your soul. We've got a minute 51 in the show left here. Before we go, I just want to leave you guys with this quote from Dr. Martin Luther King, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. The ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands at times of challenge and controversy. The true neighbor will risk his position, his prestige, and even his life for the welfare of others. Anyway, that's our show for today, guys. I really do appreciate you tuning in, as usual. You can check us out at OnTheMoveShow.com, here at blogtalkradio.com/OnTheMoveShow, Facebook.com/OnTheMoveShow, YouTube.com/OnTheMoveShow, and Twitter.com/OnTheMoveShow. And as always, know your rights, assert your rights, and get on the move.